What's up, everyone? This is Gilbert. We got Kelvin, the 300 Club Podcast, episode 26. How you doing, my brother?
What's going on, man? It's cold out here in New York City.
Definitely cold, yeah.
The cold weather that definitely got us. Bro, I'm walking on the street. I hear people sniffling. Make sure y'all get your flu shots, because I know people, tend to get sick. But no, I'm good, man. Everything is good. Slow off season right now. It's everybody's on vacation in the MLB from what it looks like. Everybody's gearing up for the GM meetings, the winter meetings. We're
Yeah.
seeing people get their options declined, picked up, and we're here to bring that to you guys right now in episode 26 of the 300 Club Podcast. What's going on with you, bro?
We chilling, man. Trying to stay warm in these times. Trying to keep the eye on the Juan Soto sweepstakes and whatever else the Mets are going to come up with.
Yeah.
It seems like every day there's like an extra layer of hint and info in regards to like the Mets approaching the free agency. You guys are gonna hear some of our predictions, some of what we want for our teams. We're gonna have a little breakdown about some of the players that we want. We're gonna touch up on the career active former leaders of baseball players.
Mhm.
We're gonna speak on the award winners, Gold Glove, Silver Sluggers, the MVP finalists, the Coach of the Year finalists, and much more, man. Please subscribe, share, comment, leave something in the comments or anything else. Anything you want to add before we start, Calvin?
Nah, man. I mean, well, first and foremost, I actually want to lead it off with a question.
Yeah,
You being the Met fan,
yeah,
it is free agency. I feel like you guys have been waiting on this pretty much all year, is to finally get some key free agents for your franchise.
yeah.
I know the anticipation seems to be building, even though the season's been over for approximately 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
You know, options are getting picked up, are not getting picked up. There are people on the free agent market, trade market is beginning to sizzle a little bit. What how should I say this question? Your expectations, are they high? Are they low? Um, like, how do you feel knowing that essentially this is going to be the beginning of your franchise, more or less beginning to turn around?
I'm excited. I
It's
feel like,
different from previous years,
oh
you know?
yeah, this is a unique place to be in, especially as a Met fan. We don't have a lot of these opportunities in our franchise.
Right.
Um, if you look at our payroll, it's about half of what we had last year, so that's good. Um, I read a report that the Mets were to get, let's say, like a Soto, Corbin Burns, and Alonso, and they give them the contracts that is deserved. So they still going to be under, like a little bit under than what they had last season. So that's a plus in my eyes. I feel like the Mets have a lot of financial capital and flexibility. Again, I think they want to compete. They did say that they want to compete 2025, but 2024 season, as you saw, got a little accelerated, the timeline, but in a good way. Expectations are still low. We overachieved. We got some pieces that we could possibly bring back based on their performance last season, and we got some young prospects that are already on the team, some that are on the rise, and again, waiting for them to see if they legit or not.
Yeah, I
It's a lot
agree.
of promise. I have a lot of players that I'm looking forward to playing again next year. Guys like Vientos is already training. I saw a video of Francisco Alvarez already training. So these young boys got it. They want it. They hungry, and I'm happy as a fan.
And from a different perspective, I saw that Francisco Lindor landed in LA to meet with Juan
Yeah,
Soto. So it's very
yeah,
important for more or less like the captain or the face of your franchise to be involved in those meetings,
yeah,
because he should be a part of the recruitment process. I think he definitely earned it. Now that we're in what, year four, about to be year five of Francisco Lindor in the
yeah,
Mets.
yeah.
So it's definitely exciting. So one of the topics that we wanted to go ahead and dive into really quickly is our top five wants for our respective teams. As you guys may know, if you guys follow us on the 300 Club Podcast, and if you don't, please make sure to subscribe and follow us on all our social media platforms, the 300 Club Podcast. And as we mentioned before, it's going to be an exciting, more or less an exciting free agency process this year. Ties seem to be changing. Now, your top five wants for your respective team, which is the New York Mets. Number one want. I mean, you could go ahead and say. I know I told you to say it for the very end, but out of the
I'll say
five that you
I'll save
mentioned,
that one for the end. I'll
you'll
start. I'll
save it for
start.
the end. Okay.
Yeah. Um.
What are your top five
Other
wants right now?
other than my number one, I would love to get Corbin Burns. I feel like he can solidify being the ace of the rotation. Um, if you look at his last 2 to 3 years, he's been a pretty good pitcher. The ERA, I wish it was a little lower, but it's still pretty good. Again, he was in the AOEs, so
Yep.
he had a 3.55 ERA. Um, the strikeouts were a little under the innings, so I would like to see it the other way around. I would like to see the strikeouts per nine to be a little higher. Nonetheless, though, he has a sinker. I like it. He has a two seam. He has a fastball, good curveball, and a changeup. He's an all around good pitcher. He doesn't miss a lot of starts. His last 3 years, he's pitched the whole season, so that's great to see. He's a four-time All Star. He's currently still in his prime. Um, see, yeah, he's only 30 years old. I'll be willing to give him a 5, 6 year deal, maybe a five plus one with an opt-in. Um, I think the estimate is for him to get somewhere around 6 or 7 years for in the 200 low 200 million range. I'll be fine with it. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, there's not a lot of great pitchers available in the market. There's not going to be a lot of them available next year either. So you got to give in. You know what I mean? If you
Yeah.
want to compete. But that's who I really want from the pitching side. I feel like you have him, and then the other guy that I want is Sean Manaea to come back maybe in a 3 year deal. Now you have those two pairings. I think that's a good 1-2 punch. Then you add Kodai Senga that he also could be an ace potentially. But now you have less expectations. You put him in the middle of the rotation. That's a great three right there. Now you have David Peterson who stepped up and overachieved. Maybe you give him another chance to see if you can prove it again. That's another starter. And now the question mark is: do you also try to bring back Luis Severino, who had a good year for the Mets? I think Jose Quintana has one more year left on the deal, if I'm not mistaken. And then you also have guys like Tyler McGill. So you got to pick which one are you sticking with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, and then another target that I would like to acquire is possibly bring back Pete Alonso. Again, I wouldn't
Well,
force it.
Well, hold on, because you're mentioning a lot of wants, a lot of great wants, and a lot of things that actually make sense to the franchise. But I want to go ahead and highlight Corbin Burns right here, because you
Yeah,
mentioned that he's 30 years old and you're willing to give him a 5 to 6 year deal. I don't think that's gonna cut it in terms of free agency because here's the thing. I feel like 36 is a big number in terms of sports. I feel like a lot of players tend to retire when they reach the other side of the 30s. And
yeah,
I feel like for somebody who's a free agent, you don't want to reach free agency at 35, 36 years old and then be a free agent once again. Because
that's
it's like,
right.
you're not really going to be making that much money at that point unless, your career is still going as strong as ever. So
Yeah,
I feel like what he's going to be wanting is probably going to be anywhere between a 7 to 10 year deal.
that's
He
fair.
is a free agent, first time free agent, so he's going to want that big time contract. And I think that he's going to want those options in his 36, 37, 38, 39, 40 if 40 years old. I think wants that option to say, if I want to play, I can play. The argument that I say is I feel like teams should shy away from that because as I mentioned before in previous episodes, the productivity that you get between the ages on average between the ages of 30 to 34 is much better than the productivity that you get between the ages of 35 to 40. So essentially, you're going to be giving them, let's just, BS some numbers. Let's say if he gets paid 25 to $30 million a year and his 37, 38, 39, is that really even a good contract at that point? One has to wonder, but, he has great stuff. He manipulates the fastball really, really well. He throws fastballs, sinkers, cutters, and I feel like those are three good arsenals. I just don't know how that's gonna correlate as he gets older and he loses some velo. Any thoughts on anything that I just shared?
You actually brought up a good point. In regards to the splits in the ages in the 30 to 40 range, I do agree now looking back at what I said, maybe he doesn't want to be a free agent at 35 or 36 because he may feel
Right.
like I still got some juice left, but then again, he's not at his best self anymore. So
And
he
now
may
he's not
want,
signing like that 25 mil. He's signing more like a 15. That's a big
yeah.
difference.
So I'm pretty sure he probably wants the financial security long term. I only said a 5, 6 year deal because that's how I prefer it to be, ideally, like in terms
All
of
right.
productivity. But to your point, I think it'll be more closer to your point. It'll be like 7, 8, maybe with an opt in a ninth year. I think he's gonna get 200 mil for sure at baseline, and it could go higher than that.
And then I agree. I agree. You mentioned another name, and that was possibly the return of Sean Manaea.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like this is somebody that we could go ahead and highlight because he is going to be in the categories of the Tyler McGills, the Luis Severinos. You question, hey, like, is this starter? Did he show enough throughout the year to bring him back? But to more or less prioritize him over these other pitchers who have had great seasons as well, especially Luis Severino, who essentially, didn't make it as a Yankee, and
Yeah.
now he had somewhat of a career resurgence. So, thoughts and opinions on Sean Manaea? I feel like this was a great pickup. It was a very emotional. One can say homecoming because I think his brother passed away the day that he signed with the Mets,
Yeah.
and he pitched pretty well. I feel like this is a seasoned vet. My only argument with this signing is that essentially having Sean Manaea and Jose Quintana, two lefties, crafty lefties, having both of them in your starting rotation, I don't know if the Mets are going to willing to do that. I think that it's best for them to let Sean Manaea walk and to invest
Mm,
that money into another potential free agent that you had on your list, and that was probably Blake Snell.
you're right. Though I would say I rephrase. I would want both. I would want all three actually. I rephrase. I want Burns, I want Manaya, and I want Snell. I think the Mets can get it done though. That's why I have it on my list. I do agree to your point. Maybe they wouldn't want to commit to both Quintana and Manaya. I would prefer Manaya out of the two. I feel like he throws a little faster, so that makes a huge difference. And I feel like, based on the mechanic adjustment that he made, I think he's a little harder to hit, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's also a little older than Corbin Burns, so that's where it gets tricky. Manaya is entering his age 33 season when the season starts next year.
Yep.
So now the contract is going to look much different than a guy like Corbin Burns. It's not going to be that long term. But I know he probably doesn't want to be a free agent to your point in his mid 30s.
Yeah.
Um,
But I mean, I feel like a player like himself who is going to be turning maybe 33 at the start of next year.
yeah,
I think that a player like Shaman, I think they understand the fact that their value is going to be probably for 1 or 2 years max, and then with opt-outs or opt-ins, I'm sorry, like maybe or options, maybe the team is going to want to put an extra option out there to see if he performs well, we can
yeah.
have him for so on and so forth. Um,
I'll
is it?
go two
I'm
plus one or 3+1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think he understands that. I mean, he's a veteran. He's crafty. I think he's beginning to figure it out his arsenal. Like I think going into the Mets this year, I think he fixed his arm slot and stuff like that. With Shaman I, man, I love him as a Met. I see him more as a journeyman. I feel like his career is not anywhere over. However, he is going to be bouncing around from franchise to franchise, and I just think that that's probably what he does. What he's going to be doing best. Um, but I don't know. Like I said, I feel like Shaman I is somebody that can wait while you guys go ahead and try to acquire these bigger fishes. And one of the bigger
Yeah,
fishes was like Blake Snell.
yeah.
And this dude definitely stepped it up after starting out pretty horrible with the San Francisco Giants. I mean, he didn't even have a spring training, but he was able to minimize the damage and have a 3.1 ERA, which is phenomenal. Still had a winning record, and his WAR was 2.1. So he still did his thing. My only concern is he's going back into free agency. He's going to be turning 32 in a couple of days, more or less, a couple of weeks. And
Yeah.
it's like, I worry about his durability. Number one, I think that's always going to be there until he shows year in, year out that he's able. My thing is with Blake Snell, I don't know what type of contract this dude is trying to get, man.
He's so tricky, to me, bro. Like how to properly value him because I'm. Let me see. How old is he? He's 31.
32, going to be
He'll
32 in
be
a
he'll
couple
be
of days.
32 by
Yeah.
the time next season starts, right? But
Hmm.
my issue is I don't know how comfortable I am with giving him a long-term contract, and I think he wants a long-term contract. And
Yeah.
the reason why I say that is because looking at his track record, he's been a good pitcher, right? He's been a two times so young at that too. I just feel like there's something about him that doesn't give me that security. And some of the things are his innings. I feel like
That
he
innings
doesn't
eater.
pitch like ace type innings, if that makes sense,
He
because
wouldn't
this
do the 6 or 7. It would be like the 4 to 5. I know. I
yeah,
understand.
because like if you look at his numbers, like it's crazy. He's been a two-time Cy Young winner, but this guy, he doesn't have that many starts where he's pitched after like through the seventh inning. Like historically, that's just not him. He's a pitcher that he blows his bullets early. He gets a high pitch count and he's out the game fifth, sixth inning, and that
And
can
one,
work. But you
right.
gotta have an elite bullpen to do that.
And one has to worry whether or not having a long term commitment to him is actually worth it. I'm gonna say this in terms of Blake Snell, real random, but I think that he might go to the Atlanta Braves. And the reason why I say that, I know it's not a popular pick, but check this out: Max Fried is also a free agent. That
Yeah,
is, and he's also a lefty.
yeah.
And the thing is, with Blake Snell, he made 20 out of 20 starts last year.
Yeah,
So I feel like he'll go good with the Braves where, it's essentially he's gonna be having a high contract, but everybody else on the Braves is getting paid close to nothing. At least not where their value is. Like Ronald Acuna is getting paid $10 to $15 million, a year. That's a
yeah,
steal. You have
yeah,
Ozzy Albies who gets paid like maybe $5 to $8 million a
yeah,
year for a long time. And I
yeah.
feel like they can essentially take on the contract of Blake Snell, and at that point, just whatever happens, happens. I mean, they have weapons in the bullpen. I don't know, but we're not talking about the Atlanta Braves right now. We're talking about the New York Mets. Any other thoughts that you want to share on Blake Snell before we
Yeah,
move on
yeah.
to the
I
last
do
two?
think that, like, now I'm spoken the negatives. I do think the highlights of his positives is that he does get a lot of strikeouts, so that's really good to see. He tends to have a career strikeout per nine of 11.2, so he's getting more strikeouts than per nine innings, anyways. Last season he had a career high 12.5, strikeouts per nine. I think that's gonna remain. He's a strikeout pitcher. Um, Interestingly enough, I've never seen this, but he got a Cy Young where I think he walked. Let me see. Yeah, I think he led the season in walks and he led the season in strikeouts. Like that's kind of weird. Like, and again, that goes to the point where he's not getting through late in the games because he's allowing so many walks, and strikeouts
Yeah,
that the pitch count is going to be high. Like that's the tendencies. You know what I mean? So I
yeah,
don't know. I wouldn't want him, but I don't know what contract makes me feel good about giving to him. That's me being honest.
yeah. It's a tricky thing. With
Yeah.
Blake Snell, it's going to be a tricky thing. And at the end of the day, we just have to sit back and just say, hey, let a team take a chance, and we'll see how he does 5 years from now. Honestly, I feel like that's the only set conclusion.
And to wrap up with Snell, interestingly enough, I'm surprised he's still oh, he changed agency. Okay, so never mind. I thought he was still a Scott Boras client because I was gonna be like, damn, back to back years. Like that's not the smartest decision if it didn't work out last year.
Right, right.
But he has new agency, so maybe this time around he gets a contract he wants.
Yeah. We shall see. Like I said, that with him, it's a wait and see. And I mean, I was surprised to see that he left the Giants, but there's something wrong with the Giants. The fact that they have not been able to obtain free agents, they even changed general managers. Like, I don't know. There's something wrong in San Francisco.
And they have
I
the
don't
money,
know.
which is crazy too.
Yeah, and they got the money, and it's like
Because they paid,
nobody
they were willing
wants
to
it.
pay Correa, they were willing to pay Judge, it just didn't land them.
Right, right. Another big name that you want on your team, and that is Pete Alonso. You want him to return. Um, what are some thoughts on Pete Alonso? I mean, I look at it like this, and I'm gonna say it. There are some players that exist that I feel like they just go with that team, Like I don't picture Jose Altuve with any other team. I feel like I can't I literally cannot picture Pete Alonso in any other uniform
Yeah,
besides the Mets. My thing is that there are potentially better options for him. I'm sorry. There are essentially better options than him in the market that I feel like can fulfill your team a little bit better
I
than a
agree.
Pete Alonso. And it's tough to say because this dude's a 3,100 guy. And it sucks to
Um,
say, but it's tough. What are your thoughts and opinions on Pete Alonso? That's your guy or was your guy.
well, he's turning 30. I think that's a solid age to be a free agent. Um, I don't know, bro. There's something like the even with Snell. There's something about Pete that I don't know, and it sucks that I feel this way. Part of me wants him to stay because if he stays through at least next season, he'll be the all-time home run leader for the Mets. He's that close. I want him to have that chance to get it. I think that's nice and in present time for someone like him to get it. Again, to your point, I just feel like there's other players that are probably better game changers than him right now in the market that I would like to get Alonso, but I know he's not the priority. And I think that the our current GM, David Stearns, he's kind of made that clear indirectly. I think if he gets the plan of getting like a Soto and Burns and possibly Snell, and there's still money left to get Alonso, I think he's gonna try to get Alonso. But he'll probably prioritize those three players that I just mentioned before getting Alonso. And it depends whether Pete wants to wait, whether Pete is fine with that offer, if he gets offer better from other teams, because he's also a Scott Boras client. You know what I mean?
Mhm. I got a fun question to ask you.
Yeah,
Really fun question. Something to, get the wheel spinning.
yeah.
let's say there's a world where the Mets get Juan Soto.
Yeah.
Let's say in that same world they also acquire, I'm gonna say, two more big names.
Okay.
It could be anywhere between a Blake Snell to Roki Sasaki to,
Yeah.
let's just say they got Juan Soto and they got two other big names besides Pete Alonso.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you in Pete Alonso's shoes.
Yeah.
Let's say if the Mets were to offer you, Gilbert, you are now Pete Alonso. If the Mets were to offer you a team friendly deal for you to come back, would you take it?
What's a team friendly deal?
I'm gonna say it depends on his value, but I think it's safe to say that he's probably gonna get more than $20 million a year. Is that
Yeah.
safe to say? Do you feel like
Uh,
he'll get more than 25 a year?
Possibly.
Okay. So I'll meet you in the middle. Let's say he signs for about $23 million a year. That's around the same contract that Teoscar Hernandez got. Would you sign?
How many years?
He's 30. 3 years. Because it's a shorter deal, sometimes they do short deals, big money,
Yeah. Yeah.
to kind of like sweeten it a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's say, all right, I'll say 3 year deal. You can hit the market at 33, right? 3 year deal, 80 mil. I'll give you a little bit more than 25 a year. What do you take it?
So that's what, like 27-ish?
Yeah,
27-ish,
27 a
28.
year for 3 years.
It's the years, bro. I don't think so. The money,
Okay,
I think the money's solid, but the years, and I
six
don't
years at
think,
20, 6 years at 20 million.
nah, he's worth more than 20 million. That's the thing,
Okay.
bro.
Well, that's the thing. So I went short term contract, big money, long term
Yeah,
contract,
yeah,
small
yeah.
money. So the question is, would you take a team friendly deal? So your answer is no.
Hold on, let me pull out the calculator real quick. Let me see. Uh, let's say he were to get, let's say he gets 140 for 6 years. I think that's a team friendly deal in my opinion.
How,
That's
how much
about
is that per year?
that's like a little under 24 million a year. Like
Would you do
23.
that?
If I'm him and they get those talent around them, sure, sure. Even though I think he could get paid more, but considering the options, I think he should take that, but I don't think he will, and that's the issue. I don't think he will. And then the problem is if he doesn't take that, who's gonna offer him more than that? Because again, the Mets already offered him a 6 to 7 year deal and he turned it down. I don't know if he's thinking that he deserves 200 million. I just don't know. I don't know, bro.
If I'm Pete Alonso, I'm taking it. And the main reason why I'm taking it is because not only are you going to be in a competitive team for years to come, but the
Yeah.
reality is, look at your average, bro. Have you batted over 280? No. Well,
Yeah.
most likely that's not something that's going to be happening in his
No.
later years. You know what I'm saying? So it's
No.
kind of like I look at it like this: if I'm Pete Alonso, and I said the same thing, for example, for the Garrett Coles, the Aaron Judges, same thing. Is not a what do you call it? A double standard or anything like that. Same thing applies to them too. If I was them, I would take a team friendly deal because it's one thing to be, spend a couple of years in the Mets and then bounce around franchise to franchise the remainder of your career. And it's kind of like everybody knows you as that one time Met where you did great and then you went elsewhere and then you became shit. I look at it like this. I think that there's a little bit of value just being an all-time Met, being loved by the city, being loved by the team,
Yeah.
knowing that anytime that you want to go to City Field is definitely there. He's
Yeah.
so close to the home run record.
Yeah.
That's already going to give him probably a retired number in City Field.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you guys win and he's a big part of that, he's immortalized as a New York
Oh,
Met
for
for the
sure.
rest of his life.
For
And it's
sure.
like, I would want that. I think that he would become a Mets legend, and I feel like you guys need more of those. In
Yeah.
terms of like trying to,
Homegrown too.
yeah, homegrown, but to have more legends within your franchise, especially like after you guys are finally turning that corner and being where you got what you guys were to now becoming like this money spending powerhouse.
Yeah.
I feel, and he was a part of that. He was there for the mix of both. Essentially, by the
Yeah.
time his career is over, I don't know, man. I think that that's something that Pete Alonso should consider. And it sucks because you always want the money, the money, the money. But what about the legacy? You know?
Yeah, I think the only way the Mets sign him is if he signs a team friendly deal. I don't see the Mets paying above and beyond just to bring him back. I don't think that's where they want to go with him
I agree.
personally. Um, if I look at his projection, so in Baseball Reference, shout out to Baseball Reference, they have an 162 game average of what the player's stats may look like based on their history and the previous seasons, right? So it says an 162 game average currently. I'm gonna give you the stats and you tell me what kind of player he is, right? He's averaged to get 43 home runs, 112 RBIs. He's hitting 249. And the OPS is 854 with a 134 OPS plus. I think that's a good player. If when he's right, I think that's a good player. The slugging you can't ignore that. You know what I mean?
No, I
My
agree. I agree.
my issue is that I feel like he hasn't been close to replicating his best season, which was his rookie year, ironically enough. And that's where my issue stays with him.
But also that the ball was juiced, bro. My opinion. I think the ball was juiced.
Mm,
I mean, that
I
was
don't know.
2018. The balls were definitely juiced.
And he has not given me confidence the last 2 years. And then that's also another way to value players is how they've done the last 2, 3 years. I think that's a better judgment because it's
More
more
to
relevant
recent,
to
yeah.
recent times.
Yeah.
His last 2 years he said 217 and then 240. This year he finally hit under 800 in OPS. Like I don't want an aging player that's not going to be as productive as he once was, and that's my concern with him. Again, I would love to get him back, but it has to be at a team friendly deal at this point. And he did it to himself at the end of the day, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, they can try and try and try, man, but it's gonna be tough. Um,
yeah,
I want to switch gears into another free agent that you want to go ahead and target,
yeah,
and that is gonna be the Roshi Sasaki. Now, this is a
yeah,
name coming straight out of Japan. He is arguably one of the best pitchers in the world. The dude is talented as hell. He's really, really good, man. He throws up to 100 miles an hour, even more than that. Um, very, very young. We don't know much about him since he plays for the Japan League, but he
yeah.
has been posting and relatively he's going to be very, very cheap. Now, the biggest thing is whether or not he's going to be going to the. I think the main competitors are the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Mets. I think those are the top three choices to get him. Um, and I feel like we're all going up against the Dodgers. But explain to me why you feel like this player, essentially why you want him.
Well, for one, considering that he's a Japanese phenom and a star, he's turning 23 already, heading into next season. To my knowledge, that's one of the youngest Japanese prospects that will ever consider coming over here at that age. Like most of them come 25 and up. Ichiro came, I think he was 27-ish. Otani was probably 25, 26, 27. Tanaka from your team in the past, he was already in the flip side of late 20s. Chiman Wan, throwback, he was already in the flip side of his late 20s. And that's just historically how it's been. Even Matsui, Hideki Matsui, he was already on the flip side of late 20s as well.
Yeah, yeah,
So this is like rare in my opinion. Even Kodai Senga was already closer to his 30s. So I think that gives them leverage. You mentioned that he has an explosive fastball, he has an incredible curveball.
yeah. He has a good split
Um,
too. I don't know if you're watching this video, but
yeah,
his
I think
split
that's just
is
that's the
wicked.
culture thing. They all gotta have a splitter, like that's what it seems like. Um, I would go for him, but I don't think it's the end of the world if we don't get him. I just hate that the Dodgers have this leverage. And I wrote this on a comment on MLB's post, I think it was. And my issue is it's not only that it's just the Dodgers, it's that it seems that the Dodgers have a drastic advantage when it comes to Japanese players coming into America and playing for them. Like, and I think it's slightly unfair, but there's no rules against it, so they can do what they want. I just feel like I want to see more competitive fire out of these Japanese bowlers. Like I don't want to see them just team up for the sake of being close to home and playing together. Like that kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. Because if you think about it, how many Dominicans play in New York? Not every Dominican is in New York. They spread out across the leagues. Like if that was the case, every Dominican wants to play in New York and live in New York. So if that's the case. You would think the Yankees or the Mets would have the biggest advantages in signing Dominican players. but that's not always the case. So they're willing to take chances. They're willing to go where the money's at. They're willing to compete in different markets. I feel like I don't really see that a lot from Japanese players. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I mean, I say it like this: the MLB simply cannot allow this to happen. They cannot allow this guy to go into, essentially the
This is
Dodgers
crazy. They
franchise.
already have a stacked
Right.
team too, bro.
And the reason why I say that is because of the diversity thing. You alluded to it earlier, and it was a great point. It's something that should be considered. For example, if you have all of these Japanese players, they're gonna grow up, become Dodgers fans, and respectfully so. They're the defending
Yeah,
champions. They have
yeah,
two of the best players in the world, the best player in the world, and they're about to have another great pitcher join them as well. And if you look at it from an MLB perspective, I mean, the MLB is all about making money. I don't think it's a secret. The other thing is that if you allow another Japanese player to go ahead and go to the Dodgers, essentially they're not going to be making that much money because there's no diversity. Now, let's say for shits and giggles, let's say for example, this pitcher goes and plays for the and give me a random name here.
yeah.
Seattle, right? Let's think a little bit more outside the box. A team that's actually a little bit more could be in the running. The Toronto Blue
Orioles.
Jays, right?
Or yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, let's say Toronto Blue Jays, right?
yeah.
So now it's like you're gonna have more diversity, especially in the world of Japan, where they tend to support baseball more than Americans do. And it's like not only you're gonna have people buying Dodgers hats, Chicago Cubs hats because of Shota and Imanaga and so on, but you're also gonna be throwing Toronto Blue Jays merch in there too. You know what I'm saying? Toronto or Canada also has a huge Japanese population as well. So it's like I look at it like this: the MLB simply cannot allow this to happen. My opinion, they simply cannot allow this to happen, especially with the way that Shohei Ohtani deferred his money.
Yeah,
Even
bro. Yeah,
even
bro.
even though it's still like a 40 something million-dollar hit in terms of the cap or whatever,
Yeah.
still this can't happen. It simply cannot happen. And it's gonna suck to see this for years to
Bro,
come.
eventually the Dodgers are gonna be Team Japan, bro.
Yeah,
Basically.
exactly. And it's more or less like you're getting the support of another country. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? That invests into baseball. That wipes out any and all teams out of the country. But here's another thing. It's not more or less that because the Dodgers can go ahead and they can just afford the player or anything like that. But it's the fact that they're essentially develop another farm system in Japan.
in a way. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's gonna make it so much more difficult for other teams to try and get these players, and
Yeah,
that's
bro.
what creates the unfairness. And it's like if I'm the MLB, I'm stepping in. I remember there was a trade years ago where Chris Paul was supposed to get traded. I think it was to the Knicks or to the
No, to the
Houston,
Lakers. Yeah,
the Lakers, and then
yeah,
the NBA vetoed it, and then
yeah,
he ended up going to the Clippers. And I
yeah.
feel like this is a situation where MLB needs to step in and say, hey, for the integrity of the sport, I think that it's best that he should not go to the Dodgers. I understand that it's his decision, his choice. But dude, like, don't you want to compete against your bros at least once? You
That's what
know?
I'm saying. Like that's why I kind of respect Kodai Senga because at least he took a risk coming to New York and he did it
Yeah.
thoroughly. Like he didn't come with, oh, I like Otani, we man, so we got to team up. Nah, and at the end of the day, like look what Yamamoto did. Like he's probably gonna be great for a certain period of time in the MLB, but he's always gonna have to live in the shadows of Otani because they're teammates and Otani's the better player. You're gonna want to be Sasaki and also live in the shadows of Otani. Like why not carve your own legacy? You know?
Exactly. And then I truly believe that the biggest competitor to the Dodgers are the Padres because Sasaki has a really good relationship with Yu Darvish.
Yeah,
Exactly. Um, And I think that in terms of Sasaki's development and as he gets acclimated into U.S. sports,
yeah,
U.S. baseball, I
yeah.
feel like having somebody like you, Darvish, for being around him is gonna help him. I mean, we saw what happened with the Shohei Ohtani thing and his translator, and you just never know the people closest to you. I'd be more happy if he goes to the Padres. I feel like that
Yeah,
creates a little bit more of competition, and I
I
think it's better for the sport. You're gonna be seeing Dodger fans. You're also gonna be seeing Padres fans. Do I want him on the Mets and the Yankees? Of course I do. Do I think it's likely? I don't know, man. I think California State or these California teams have definitely broken the system.
definitely. And it goes back to my point. Like, imagine every
Excuse me.
Dominican be like, "Hey, I'm gonna play New York, whichever of the two teams only." Like, that's when other teams are gonna start noticing that and not like that. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta keep the energy even in all fields. I feel.
Yeah,
And
and
again,
I
that's the
agree.
issue. That's the issue that baseball has because there's no salary cap, bro. So, you know,
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough, but it's just that I mean I don't want to sound like a hater, but MLB literally should not allow this to happen because at the end of the day, what matters to the most is the money
Yeah.
and having an additional Japanese-born player on the Dodgers is not gonna help.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough. I mean, look at the Giants. They had that Korean player. He got injured at some point in the year, but he took a chance and went to the Giants. I think that was a
Yeah.
dumb decision by him, but he didn't go for the Dodgers. You know what I'm saying? And he could have. I don't know,
Yeah.
man. It's tough. It's tough.
Go ahead.
No, is there anything else that you wanted to mention on him?
No, I just wanted to wrap it up. We'll continue the conversation in our next episode. We'll have more for you guys, such as the award nominations, the
No,
winners.
man. I mean, we could keep going. I mean, I still want to go through my list.
Oh yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, well,
Shoot
I
it.
mean, there's one name that we left out, and it's a big fish, probably the biggest fish in this free agency
Oh,
period.
yeah.
And I want to hear your thoughts and opinion now that he's officially not a Yankee. He's a free agent now, and that is the possibilities of acquiring the services of Juan Soto. Tell me why you want this guy. But I mean, we already mentioned more or less what the contract is looking like, but feel free to tell the audience. Now, go ahead, man.
Juan Soto, 26 years old, has all the leverage in the world, has the world in his hands. This guy can go to any team and transform a franchise. I believe he's currently in the process of taking these meetings. I believe he's meeting with the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, the Mets, the Yankees, and the Dodgers. I think the Yankees are last. I think the Mets are second to last. The Dodgers were first, and then the other teams are somewhere in between. They're all meeting him in California. I believe it's because Scott Boras' office is in Cali, so it makes sense like logistically. This dude is a game changer. I know he has flaws defensively, but what he can provide for your lineup offensively, hey, as you can see for yourself, a 1 year rental and you guys went to the World Series. You're not going to the World Series without Soto.
Without him, absolutely.
So
I agree.
why wouldn't any team want him if he's available? You know what I mean? That's how I look at it.
I agree. I agree. I mean, we could go on and on about this guy, man. I would love to have him as a Yankee for life. I feel like this is one thing. And here's the thing. This is my biggest argument as I allude into my list here of the top five that I want for the Yankees. You traded essentially 4 to 5 players for this guy.
Yeah.
Prospects, starting pitchers, and veterans for this guy. And you
Yes.
do that commitment knowing that it's only going to be for 1 year
Yeah.
with the possibilities of hoping to get his services back.
Yeah.
I believe that because we did that trade, him departing is going to hurt us a little bit.
A
Absolutely.
little bit, a lot of it, bro.
Well, a lot. Well, the thing is that we don't know who we're going to acquire to essentially supplement his him not being there, but we also have prospects that I look at it like this, man. As I go ahead and speak about my list of the top five wants for the Yankees, at least according to me, you cannot replace Juan Soto. Absolutely not. You cannot replace him. And I mentioned it time and time. I think that his contract is going to be over 600 million. I think
Yes.
he is going to receive anywhere between 50 to 55 million with a bunch of opt outs.
Yeah.
My thing is with him is that let's say he doesn't sign with the Yankees. Yeah, it's going to be a tremendous loss, but I feel like in the long run, we're going to be able to make up ground. Why? Because of Jason Dominguez, because of Spencer Jones. Right now, we have a second baseman who played in the Arizona Fall League, Caleb Durbin, who's essentially going to be a little bit more productive. We still have Aaron Judge there. I still feel like essentially, even though he's irreplaceable, as the year progresses, we're going to be able to make up ground. And as Juan Soto ages, he's probably going to be more of a DH. We are going to need that DH for Aaron Judge as he also gets older. It's going to be tough, man. It's one where it's like, I want him and I want him bad, dude. But who
Absolutely.
knows, years down the road, maybe it's something that we don't regret. Like the same thing, I'm sorry, with the Roki Sasaki thing. This dude is like 170 pounds and he's 6'2". He's frail. He
Yeah.
is. I see Tommy John in his future. He throws 100 miles an hour. Jacob DeGrom ish. You know what I'm saying? And it's like essentially out of the contract that you give him, he's probably gonna miss out on a year. It's gonna happen. Hopefully not, but I could bet the house is probably gonna happen. But Juan Soto, man, as he ages, he's essentially going to be a DH. I think that this year was his best year defensively, and he was still a slightly below average right fielder. I mean, he's playing in one of the smallest right fields available. I think that he was to sign with the Red Sox. I think he's going to play left field and play things off the monster. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is non-negotiable. He needs to come back and be a Yankee. I think he loved it there. I think that having the protection of Aaron Judge is something that no other team can offer him. I feel like he witnessed the whole year of being a Yankee. I think that he realized that this could be it. It could be his one and only year as a Yankee. And essentially, in terms of track record, yes, we can provide a winning environment for him for years to come. But in addition to that, like he has a love of New York City as well as if he was to sign with the Yankees. I mean, I'm sorry, excuse me, with the Mets, he's gonna have that Dominican love that's so strong here in the city. Um, it's tough, man. It's really, really tough. There's a lot of competition for him as they should be. Uh I think that he's gonna come back. And I think that if he was to come back and be a Yankee, it's not gonna be because of the money. I think the Yankees are gonna match and match and match until they can't match anymore. And I think essentially he's gonna want to come back. Uh because I mean, there's things that we offer that nobody else does, like coverage, Medicare. I'm sorry, medical coverage for their families and their extended families. Like, there's so many perks of being a Yankee. There really, really is. The Yankees do things like no other franchise does, and I feel like he's witnessed that for a year. And honestly speaking, I look at it like this: I've been traveling the world a little bit recently, and even though I've been so excited to visit all these cities, I always say the same thing. None of these cities are literally like New York City. And I feel like the same thing is going to apply. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. And if we lose them, like I said, I feel like if we lose them, I feel like it will be a well earned loss because we did not do enough throughout the season to retain them. Yes, we reached the World Series, but look at the clientele and the flaws that we showed. We're fundamentally flawed. There's a lot of question marks within our organization. So, did we put ourselves in the best situation possible to have this star player come back? The answer is no, we didn't. So that's my take on it. I would love to have him back. And if we don't, I think that within the next couple of years, we're going to be able to make up ground. It's going to be a big bat to lose. But at the end of the day, the Yankees got to put their best foot forward because he's worth it.
I feel like the only way, so I disagree a bit. I feel like the only way he returns to the Yankees is if the Mets and these other teams, they put an offer that the Yankees match, and let's say the offer is all even across the board. I think there he would choose the Yankees. Other than that, he's choosing the max in whatever team that is, which I think is the Mets, based on the ownership and flexibility.
I agree with you. I think the Mets will offer the most. I agree with you
So I do think
110%.
that he would prefer staying in New York in whichever of the two teams that is. Like we said before, and again, like Yankee fans that tune in and watch this, you guys may disagree. I understand why you guys would disagree. I feel like Yankee fans are very biased culturally, but it is what it is. They're very loyal and passionate fans at the end of the day. I do think the Mets, as it's looking now, going onward to next year, I feel we have a better projected future than the Yankees if everything goes right. What I mean by that is I feel like we have more versatility with our players in our organization. I feel like we have better top prospects currently right now. We have players that are more game changers all around. Like we don't have the best player out of the two teams, but we have more versatility with players like better defense, better culture. All the players seem to be a little more relaxed and have more fun.
Better
Um, I
stadium.
also, I also think there's more Latino players in the Mets. I think that kind of helps for a player like Soto.
Yeah.
Um, like they're more fundamentally more sound, I feel. And I think Lindor and Soto have a good relationship that I feel like that may be a conversation. I think the rise of Vientos could probably help persuade him a bit. If Pete stays, that could be another anchor to persuade him. Yeah, and Steve Cohen, he seems like a very pro players owner. So, and I think players look at that and want that. Those are factors that I see.
I want to add on to that. You mentioned one key thing, and that was the culture of the Mets.
Yeah,
The Mets look like they like to have a lot of fun.
yeah,
Juan plays the game like he likes to have a lot of fun. You can tell by
yeah,
his at bats.
yeah.
Perfect, bro.
Yeah. I do think it was a big risk of the Yankees trading for him, but I get it. Like the Yankees is trying to go all in this year.
We needed to.
Um,
We absolutely needed to. The
oh
way that
yeah, yeah,
everybody's
yeah.
contract was set up, we needed to.
And yeah, I missed the playoffs last year, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the year
So
before, yeah.
they went all in. I feel like the only way the Yankees could have ensured more for Soto to stay is that they had to win the championship. I think him winning the championship this year, even if they got to the World Series, changes the perspective, like having to cash out on the most money or playing with the winner. I think that changes a lot, actually, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
I
something that
100% agree on
that's
that.
the hill that I've been on since the beginning of the year. I do think the Yankees, if he does walk, is a L in a lot of ways because Michael King, he was an All-Star this year, if I'm not mistaken. No,
Yeah, he was a great pitcher. I mean,
he's
he
a
has
great
the stuff.
pitcher. Got some other pieces around to the Padres that are turning the corner. Kage Shioka was pretty solid in their team this year. So players like that. Um, but it's a risk, sometimes you got to take and gamble. I just don't think the Yankees will recover effortlessly if he does leave. You mentioned guys like what is it? Oswaldo, what is it?
Yeah,
Cabrera, right?
we have Oswaldo Cabrera, and then we also have Oswald Peraza.
He didn't play this
Um,
year though.
Oswald Peraza didn't, but Spencer
Last
Jones,
year.
we're beginning to question whether or not he's the real deal. But we
Okay.
also have other prospects, like we have the Roderick Arias, who was like the number one international prospect. We also
Okay.
have a great prospect who is George Lombard Jr., infielder. Uh, if I'm not mistaken, I think we also have another center fielder who's Dominican as well. His name is Brandon Maella, who
Okay.
also signed as the number one rated top prospect. So in the future, and this is something that Yankee fans don't tend, my list is centered, and I'm sorry to cut you off.
Hmm.
My list is centered around what I think is realistic possibilities, and involves a little bit of creativity and a little bit of rebuilding as well. Because I feel like a lot of Yankee fans tend to have the idea of let's get the best players because we're the Yankees and so on. And it's like sometimes I'm not always the best decision, but I feel like we do have a lot of prospects, a lot of international prospects that we signed at 15, 16, 17 years old that are in development that can essentially be essential to the team while Juan Soto is still in his prime. He's 25 years old. In a
Yeah.
5 year window when he's 30, and now these prospects have been brought up and maybe have a year or two under the belt, these could be looking scary. And all but one of them is Hispanic. Like,
Yeah.
that's huge. Whether or not they're trade pieces, I don't know. But it's there. It's just that these are names that people, unless you're baseball lifers like us, like you don't really tend to know?
I do think that's a blessing and a curse by the Yankees org too, because they don't rebuild properly. They don't rebuild actually. The only time they rebuild is because they suck, and that was in the early '90s.
In the early 90s, 80s,
Well,
yeah.
other than that, they don't rebuild. So it's like you're kind of accelerating the timeline of your prospects, and that's a lot of the time the prospects get traded for a big star, and it just doesn't work out sometimes. So I feel like that hurts the development of those players and
Well,
the
well,
mental
check this out.
aspect. Hmm.
These international prospects that we have, the names that I've mentioned,
Yeah.
yeah, they're prospects, but they were international prospects or international free agents. So essentially, it's not like, or yeah, we're scouting them and stuff like that. But essentially, you bought those players, like the Jason Dominguez's and so on. You essentially bought those players. So it's like we're still doing Yankee things. It's just that they invested into the youth, and I feel like because they invested into them, I could definitely see them in the majors at the age of 20 to 25. Honestly speaking, I don't see any of them reaching 25 by the time they reach the majors. Something drastic needs to happen where they completely fall off the map. Um, but I think these guys definitely have potential. It's just that we don't know, and it's not the Yankee thing to do. But the ball has started with the signing of somebody like a Jason Dominguez. I think that they've finally caught on to okay, we need to start targeting these prospects when they're young, like the Juan Soto's and so on.
I got a question for you though.
Hmm.
If we always speak about the Yankees, they're defensively flawed. They don't have the best metrics in the fielding positioning. They tend to be lazy sometimes or not have the hunger, right? If you've seen these things of players that came up in the Yankees, so I'm naming like Gleyber Torres, I'm naming Gary Sanchez that was in the Yankees farm system until he came up, right? And those players have flaws in their own ways, right? You don't think that's also something that comes fundamentally, culturally from the minor leagues too? At the end of the day, like maybe it's
Um,
because it starts from the top to the bottom in a way too, bro. So
I
maybe
get it.
that's
Yeah.
the thing about being a Yankee.
I think that's a very valid question to ask, and I think that that's something that needs to be asked amongst the organization. So thank you so much for actually sharing that question. Um, I think that whatever that was taught up until the beginning of 2024 this year has stopped. And I feel like that once they acquired the services of the analytical department, do you remember that they were like investigating things within their franchise to see
Course,
what works
yeah,
and what didn't? That
yeah.
was supposed to be ongoing throughout the whole year. Throughout the
Mm,
whole year. So I
mm.
feel like whatever that was being taught prior to this year, 2024, has stopped. And I feel like going into this year, I think that a lot of the things that they're teaching, and especially, we've had former prospects and former Yankees pretty much expose what was being taught in the Yankees minor league system. And I think they called a win of that and said, no, we need to change. Even now, more than ever, being that the way that we lost in the World Series was because of the development of the Gleyber Torres and what we're learning and stuff like that. And I think that things have been changing. We don't see it. This is just me assuming, but there's no way that all of this can be thrown in the eyes of the public and for changes not to take effect. So I do understand the concern. I believe in my team that they have made and they're continuing to adjust, you know. And but we shall see. Like I said, and I've been saying this from day one. If we continue to fail, I want that to bring changes upon the organization. And I think that we've had that wake up call more times than not at this point. I want to go ahead and go into the rest of my list.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm gonna put this in two pieces because a lot of the players that I actually want, three out of the four remaining players that I would want on the Yankees are actually on the same team, and I feel like this adds on to the creativity of it. But first things first, I want to knock on the door of possibly acquiring Carlos Correa. I think this could also cause us to um, probably get rid of one of our prospects, and that's gonna suck. Because we spoke about hugging those prospects until they're ready to mature and probably be paired with an aging Aaron Judge and a prime Juan Soto. But Carlos Correa has not been successful. I think the Minnesota Twins are looking to move his contract. The Yankees were essentially rumored to be after him at some point during his free agency. I think it's safe to say that you could count out the Giants. I think it's safe to say that you could also possibly count out the um, excuse me, my AirPods disconnected. But I think it's safe to say that there are a lot of teams that you can cancel out, and I feel like this is where the Yankees could possibly pick him up. Maybe Toronto Twins. What the fuck? Excuse me, the Minnesota Twins take some of his contract.
yeah.
We shall see. But like I said, this is more wishful thinking. But I would like to see Carlos Correa, his pedigree, maybe probably play third base, alleviate some of what is hindering him and his ankle off a little bit. Have him bulk up a little bit, like he was intending on doing for the New York Mets. I think it's gonna be interesting, but I could definitely see the Yankees go after him. What are some thoughts on opinion? I know it's out of the box,
Um,
but what do you think?
it seems like he had a really good year last year. He just got hurt. That's always been the thing for him. He's always injury prone. But last year he hit 310, had a
Mm-hmm.
had a 905 OPS with an OPS plus of 152. 14 home runs. He only played 86 games though, so that's the concern there. He's
Yeah.
always kind of been injury prone. He's had years that he plays most of the year, but he misses some time always every year. Um, I don't know. He's risky because again, like with that health injury that got reported last year, I don't know. I don't know if he's worth the risk giving up prospects. I don't know, but that's a solid idea.
Right.
I'm open to that.
Yeah, I'm open to see it. It was like one of those where it's like Kirky trades where it's like you don't know if it's gonna work out or not. But I
Yeah,
look at it like this: if we miss out on Juan Soto, we could also be acquiring not only Carlos Correa, but maybe a Byron Buxton. I know that the Minnesota Twins might want to get rid of that contract too. I think they've given him enough chances to prove himself, but that could also be a name to watch out for. Another name that is very out the box, and that's probably the addition of Brendan Donovan. He's a utility man. He bats lefty, which is extremely key.
yeah,
He's 27 years old.
yeah.
He's just a guy that plays. He's a guy of many trades. He can play multiple positions. Right here, his stats is that he batted 278, 14 home runs, 73 RBIs. I look at it like this: he's a better option than DJ LeMahieu, you know. And it's like I feel like somebody that's this fundamentally sound. I love DJ LeMahieu, dude. Like he's honestly one of my favorite Yankees. But his time is up, and I am curious to know what Brendan Donovan can do on the Yankees. Being that he's so versatile, he can fulfill different positions, and versatility is key because not only is he versatile, Oswaldo Cabrera is also versatile. If they want to bring up Peraza, he's versatile as well. Jazz Chisholm could play multiple positions, and with DJ LeMahieu, we don't know what productivity we're gonna get out of him. And let's say if we have that first base still open, you could
Yeah.
plug in Brandon Donovan, and you can pretty much move around. Have him be like
Um,
the younger um, DJ LeMahieu.
I think that's not a bad player. I think he's very. I wouldn't say he's great or good, but he's solid. Like
He's
he's a
solid,
solid
yeah.
he's a solid player. Like you said, played multiple positions. He's lefty. I've heard about him for some years. I do have a concern with the Yankees, and I've heard this on TikTok on a baseball page. Something that the Yankees that could be attributing to their defense woes. Yes, they do have players that are multi-position players, but it seems like if you look at the defensive chart, not every player is playing their best position on defense, and I think that hurts you at the end of the day because you got to build chemistry, bro. You know what I mean? Like Aaron Judge, ideally, he's a right fielder. He's proven to be a right fielder. He's a much better fielder at right field than the center field. But because you have Soto, you have to sacrifice some of that giftness and that strength of his to play center. Now, for example, you have a guy like Stan who's deadlocked at DH. So sometimes when you want to give Judge a breather and put a better defensive player in center, you don't have the option to do that, right? In the playoffs, you guys started John Birdie at first base. He's not a first baseman. He did solid, but he's not a first baseman. You guys
Right,
tried out Oswaldo Cabrera at first
right.
base. He's also not a first baseman. It's just too much trying to put things to see if they work. Chance Chisholm, he's not a third baseman. He had times like he looked really good at third, but that's just not his position. You know, he's a second
Right.
baseman that just transitioned to a center fielder. You know, so it's just a lot of players that
Moving
are not
parts.
playing positions that they're naturally meant to play. You know,
I agree, but here's the thing. I feel like, see,
you
here's
knew
the
that.
thing. I feel like if Yankee fans are probably going to remember this, but we were attacked for not being versatile or just having players just have single-minded positions, and that happened fairly recently too. So it's kind of like I rather have versatility than not.
No, no,
I feel
but what I mean by that is like yes, you want to have players that have the capability of playing several positions, but you still want them to play in a primary position.
in a
That's what
primary
I meant by
position.
that.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
what I mean by versatility is like in case of an injury, they can step up and do something else or when it's needed, but they should still be
Not every
required
day.
and needed to play their natural positions ideally so you can get the best outcome out of every player. That's what I mean by that.
Um, I'm gonna defend the Yankees on this point. Aaron Judge playing center field. I don't think that was supposed to be planned. I think that essentially he was supposed to move over to left, and Jason Dominguez was to come up. The thing is that Jason Dominguez he tore his oblique at pretty much the start of the year. But
Yeah,
once you tear your oblique because that's your abdomen,
yeah,
you're out for an extended period of time. So I think that was number one. Two, first base, John Birdie and Oswaldo Cabrera. Oswaldo Cabrera showed that he's a great utility guy. I don't think he has a position anymore. I think he's a utility guy. But John Birdie playing first base, yes, that was a risk, absolutely. But I mean, the situation called for it because Anthony Rizzo towards the end of the year broke his finger. So it's kind of
right.
like, hey, I'm happy that we at least had somebody to be plugging in there.
A question.
Hmm.
I for the control of question. You mentioned Oswaldo Cabrera. He's very versatile. You feel like he doesn't have a position. Why you as a fan would want that out of a player who was considered one of their best prospects coming up? Because at the end of the day, that's a recipe to not be a starter, an everyday starter at some point. If you're gonna be the
I don't see him as a starter. I never. That's the thing. I never saw him as a top prospect, and I never saw him as a starter. Oswaldo Cabrera, and I feel like right now he's fulfilling a role that suits him compared to somebody else. Like I feel like what he's doing right now is adding more to his value. The fact that he's able to play so many positions and then do them well on the fly. That's rare, dude. Um, and then the John Birdie thing at first base, the situation called for itself. Jazz Chisholm playing third, that was a huge risk, but he's shown that he can do it. I'm acquiring Brendan Donovan to play third, possibly, but I also have to get into the rest of my list. Um, but I would want Jazz Chisholm to go back to second. I think that he's naturally a second baseman. We did take a lot of risks throughout the year. That I'm not gonna argue, but I'd rather have versatility. But when now we're trying to establish, all right, when we're fully loaded, this is everybody's positions, and this is what we want you to get good at. And then
yeah,
intense to injury, then we can make the adjustment. But another third baseman that I want to go ahead and target, like I mentioned before, as we go ahead and wrap this list, is Nolan Arenado. This is somebody who's had a disappointing year last year for the St. Louis Cardinals. His
yeah,
contract is essentially team friendly. He's not really getting paid what his value is. Crazy. Um, this is somebody that I think that under the right team, he can have somewhat of a career resurgence. I'm curious to know how he will do with the likes of Aaron Judge, another right-handed hitter that can possibly share some knowledge. Maybe help him out a little bit like that. Nolan Arenado, dude, I feel like they would be a great pickup, great defensive third baseman. And the other thing is this: His offensive numbers right now, to me, are pretty good. It's serviceable, but the thing is defense is where his value is, and I feel like that's just something that you cannot absolutely take for granted. I mean, he is a six-time platinum Globe Glove winner at third base, one of the toughest positions. And I don't know, man. I feel like this is something that the Yankees should look into,
Yeah, I mean, at this pace, he's going to be a
and the
Hall of
Mets,
Famer.
and the Mets too.
What about the Mets?
I think they should also target Nolan Arenado.
I would say no, not because I don't think he's good. I just don't think he's worth giving anything up. But we have promising players that are potentially going to be filling those positions. That's how I
Okay,
see
fair
it.
to say.
And I also say that because you got to think about you got Vientos, you got Beatty, and you got Mauricio. You got three guys that potentially going to be the future third basemen of the Mets. So I wouldn't want to give that up for Arenado short term window. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I look at it like this. I think the Yankees could possibly trade one of their young prospects for
But
Nolan Arenado to pair that young prospect
yeah,
with Mason Wynn. And
yeah.
then right there, you essentially have like a new core within the next couple of years, more or less. Um,
Wait to get Mason win?
no, 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 no. To the Yankees are going to trade a prospect like maybe a Roderick Arias,
Okay,
maybe a
okay,
Brandon
okay.
Maeda to
Mhm.
pair them with Mason Wynn. So it's kind of like you have two young studs there. Um, and I think it could be a trade that would work out for both teams. The last name that I want to go ahead and target is Ryan Helsley. I just think that right now the Cardinals are in a situation where they're trying to probably start rebuilding a little bit like that. They're not in an ultra competitive division,
Yeah.
but I don't see them doing better than the surprise of the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm sorry, Milwaukee Bucks, Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah.
The Chicago Cubs are still in that picture.
Yeah.
Um, I think that the Pittsburgh Pirates, I think they're knocking on the door being very competitive. And I think that the Cardinals, especially with their manager, I don't think that they're more or less there. But Ryan Helsley, man, he's gonna come at, he's gonna want a lot. He does deserve a lot. I mean, he has a 2.0 ERA, great closer, well experienced, flamethrower. That's exactly what we need on the Yankees. I think that his contract, as we look here, he signed through 2020. Oh, well, there you go. He's a free agent in 2026.
Mm.
He's a
So you
free
got
agent in 2026. Also, his agent is Wazerman, and there's a lot of Yankee players right now who their agency is Wazerman as well. Just a fun fact. And dude, I think he's a player that we need. He's 30 years old. He could be. He doesn't have facial hair, so already he looks like a Yankee. And I just think that he fits everything that we need for the bullpen. Hard thrower, gets outs, intimidating, well seasoned, experience. He's a closer by nature. And I think that would really bring us over the top. That's my
yeah.
list.
Hmm.
I think that's my list.
He gets a lot of strikeouts, so I think that's something the Yankees need too. So
Yeah.
that's
And like I said, I'm not trying to like, even though Juan Soto is one of the biggest fishes, I'm not really trying to go for all these other big fishes like the Blake Snells or so on and stuff like that. I want the Yankee fans to more or less think more realistic and reasonable because we already do have a lot of high value contracts on our team. I think we need to start working the trade market. I think that we need to start acquiring players that not only compensate the window that we have with Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole, but to be able to still have players that are comparable if Juan Soto stays a Yankee. And I feel like these trades help.
So I have two more quick points before we wrap it up. This has been a long discussion. One, it seems like Gleyber Torres is 9 out of 10 times like he's very likely that he's gone. He cleared his Instagram, and then based on how Cashman worded things, I believe a week or two ago in an exit meeting or anything, it just gave the inclination that he's likely not coming back. I think it's fair. I think I think it's okay for to part ways, even though some of you guys feel like he's undervalued and underappreciated. But I think it's fair. I think both parties will win if they part ways. I think he needs a change of scenery. I wouldn't be surprised if he does well in another team. I feel like a team like Seattle, he would look nice in. They need offense. Um, how you feel about that with Glaber?
I don't feel like he's underappreciated.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I feel like he's not undervalued. I think he's underappreciated.
okay.
I think that his tenure in the Yankees was more or less a success. I feel like that we
You think
acquired him.
so?
I mean, we acquired him for Aroldis Chapman, and then we ended up getting Aroldis Chapman right back.
In that perspective, yes.
Right. And then he provided some great highlights for us. He was a great hitter. He was a very healthy hitter. I mean, I don't remember the last time this dude even spent some time on the IAL. Great player. He's grown with us. But I feel like as of the type of caliber player that we need, it just sucks because I feel like the last 2 months of the season when he was batting leadoff, I feel like he really was able to establish some value that he lost, but it might have came up a little bit too late. I just feel like for what we need right now is not a right-handed potential power hitter or somebody that's not as quick and somebody that's not as fundamentally sound. And I just feel like I think it will be an addition by subtraction. I think that we'll be better off without him. And I think that we can get a player that essentially does things differently than he does, and essentially that'll make our team a little bit better.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think that man, I just think that he was underappreciated by Yankee fans because he really was pretty good. But he's just not what we need right now. It's just not what we need right now, and it sucks to say, but can he play third? I don't know. I don't even think I want to put him to play third.
I feel like how I would judge him and his Yankee career from an outsider, I feel like it's been a seesaw. I say that because his first 2 years is his best years in baseball so far.
The ball was juice, bro. That was 38 home runs. Half of them shits came from bro. He's the reason why the Orioles moved the left field back.
Yeah.
He's
But
literally the reason.
to your point, I feel like the fundamentals is a big aspect. Like even when he's good, I feel like the fundamentals hold the Yankees back in so many ways, bro. And it's a culture thing too, you know. I feel like he strikes out way too much as a hitter. He has every year besides last year and the COVID season, he struck out more than 100 times every year. That's
Mhm.
way too much, bro, for a second baseman, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Um,
saying. I feel like we need a player that does the opposite of what he does. Doesn't strike
even
out, is a
even
little
if
bit
it's less home
faster.
runs, bro. Even if it's less
Exactly,
home runs,
exactly.
yeah.
Because what he has, 14 home runs, maybe. I could find somebody that could give me 8 to 12, and it sounds like Derek Jeter to me. Like, you know?
Yeah. I think a guy like Luis Arias will be a perfect substitute, even though I don't think that's a possibility right now. But a player like that will do wonders for the Yankees, you know?
It's exactly what we need, and that's what I'm saying. Addition by subtraction. You subtract Gleyber Torres, but we essentially could be a better off team if we
Yeah.
acquire somebody that does a little bit things a little bit better. What was your other question?
And then my last point to wrap it up in this discussion is, are you feeling confident with the starting pitching rotation heading into next season? I think there's a lot of question marks in my opinion.
Um, I believe that there are some question marks. Carlos Rodon still has not shown me who he is, and I feel like that. I feel like that. Yeah, I feel like he learned a valuable lesson in the playoffs about keeping his composure, and I think essentially he's going to be bringing it all together next year. This year he lost a lot. This year he lost a lot of weight, and towards the end it was his attitude that changed, and he did better than he did his first year. So I feel like he's on the upswing a little bit. Um, Luis Hill, I'm curious to know how well he's going to do next year. Clark Schmidt has emerged also as a reliable starter. Nestor Cortez is going to come back with a vengeance. I strongly believe that. Here's the thing, though. I just don't know our depth because we traded it for Juan Soto. So, if anything, that is what I think the question mark is. We are also paying Marcus Stroman $15 million, right? And he didn't even start in the World Series. He didn't even
He started
start.
no play. He didn't play no playoffs at
He
all.
didn't even play at all. And this is just a shout out to all the Yankee fans because we all wanted him. So did I. And now look, Juan Cashman, Brian Cashman was right. In terms of like he wouldn't even start in the playoffs, and he was right. But guess what? Now he's on the books for 15 mil. Uh,
Oh man, what do you do there? Like I don't know.
but
Like I
hey,
feel like
if I'm Marcus Stroman, I'm also going into the offseason like, no, I'm gonna go ahead and prove this right or wrong because I
he has
am.
been saying that already on Twitter and his stories. I'm just concerned, like, what if he doesn't have the success he feels like he wants? Do the Yankees buy him out? Do the Yankees trade him? I don't
I
know
would trade him.
because I feel like that's a player that he can get disgruntled if he has another poor start to the year as the season goes on, and then he's like, damn, if we make the playoffs again, these people don't have confidence in me, so I'm probably not gonna be in the roster. Do I really want to be here? I don't know. I think that's a question mark,
Yeah.
something to address.
It's our
Nestor
depth, man. The
Cortez, you
depth is
said,
questionable.
huh? It's
The depth is
questionable.
questionable. That's what it is.
Nestor Cortez, you say he's coming back with a vengeance. I don't see it, but I'm willing to observe him next year to see how he does.
Well, look how he
Uh,
ended up the year. He said that before he got hurt, he said that You know, if it means coming out of the bullpen or whatever, I'm willing to do whatever the team wants me to do, and so on. But I don't know, man. It's just at some point that motivation just doesn't hit the same. You don't hit the gym as hard enough. You don't run as many laps as you should because it's like it's been 2, 3 years of the same shit. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard.
And I feel like with him, he just doesn't get enough strikeouts. And it goes back to the point. If you're gonna have a contact pitcher, him and Stroman, you gotta have a great defense. And the Yankees do not have a great defense. And I think part of it, that's why Stroman struggled too, bro. Because if you look at Stroman's numbers, he's a high contact pitcher. And
Yeah,
if you're a high contact pitcher and you don't got the defense placed in the right position,
it's tough.
the ball may land as a hit, but it could be an error in the eyes of the viewer, and that's going to skew up your ERA and blah 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 blah.
And
So
everything's gonna fall apart as we saw Game 5 of the World Series.
yeah,
But like I said,
um,
lessons have been learned.
yeah. But guys, thank you for tuning in to episode 25. We discussed what the
26,
Yankees.
26.
Sorry, episode 26. What you guys want? It's been a long day, bro. I was in court today. But anyways, we discussed what the Mets and Yankees want in the offseason. Next episode we'll try to get across the award finalists, the
A lot of
winners,
awards, yeah.
the MLB active home run leaders, and many more topics such as the Tampa Bay Rays for the Yankee Stadium spring training field, the Oakland A's. Well, they're not even Oakland anymore. The A's. They're playing in Sacramento in a minor league field. So we're gonna discuss how we feel about two pro major league teams with historic figures and times playing in the minor league stadium while other teams are playing in the MLB stadium. How do the prospects feel? How do the young players feel that are in the MLB roster? They're gonna have to basically go through the minor league grind as professional major league players. So tap into episode 27 coming out soon. That's gonna be a great discussion. I'm looking forward to it. Please subscribe, share, comment, like. This is Gil. That's Coven. You know,
No.
out of here.